Hello, good morning. This is St. Patrick's Day 2023. That's March 17th. And we are here back after 2 years. If you remember, with Tom Ryan Remembers, we started in June of 2020, just after the pandemic started. And we did 55 different videos, all of memories of Tom Ryan, up until 2 years ago, in March 2021. And so we've left off from that and we're coming back now, after 2 years. And so the idea here today is to follow up and see what kind of changes have happened since 2 years ago. And so that we can have a record of what's happened. Okay, Dad, is there any notable differences that have happened in the last 2 years?
Well, we're still in the twin home here in this continuing care community in Loveland, Colorado. And it's a wonderful place, and we've enjoyed it very much. Met many new people and had very great activities. Barbara is younger than I am, and much younger by standards of old age, and she's been very active and recently wrote a book, 8 pages long. It was an annual report of the auxiliary of Good Samaritan Senior Village, and it told what has been going on in the last years, because they dropped the annual report during the pandemic, and so she had to cover about 3 years instead of one. But this organization that she's the secretary of gives an opportunity for people here to join in all kinds of volunteer activities. Some of them make money. They now have a bank account of over $20,000. They give this money away to help the people who live here. About 400 of us live in independent living. So we do have a lot of activities and a lot of things to do. And it's a beautiful place. And we were protected from the pandemic somewhat by masks and by being away from the center of the city. But people still got it. And we were lucky. We got all the shots, but we didn't get the pandemic, the illness, until at the very end, just very recently. And we had a very mild case of it, both of us at the same time. And then it was over.
This was about what, 3 months ago?
Right.
Or so? Yeah.
So now I think things are over. We don't hear about people getting it now. And I don't think anybody died here at Good Samaritan. And there were millions who died in the world and in the United States too. So I think living here was somewhat of a protection. Mm-hmm. People during the Black Plague in Europe would always go to the rural areas and to get away from whatever it was that was causing it. They didn't know. But even in the recent illnesses in Pennsylvania during the American Revolution, people just went to the rural areas every summer because malaria would plague the city and kill people.
Is Loveland and Good Samaritan, is that rural?
Well, we're on the edge of town, and the town is a fairly small town, nothing like Denver. And we do have open land, but to the west of us are the Rocky Mountains, and to the south, there's open land between us and Denver. And
you could tell about the wildlife we have here.
Oh, yeah, let's look at an example. Canada geese come here in the summer and eat the grass, and then in the fall they fly south. But we have some of the geese that have decided that Loveland is such a nice place, the geese stay here. They're not many, but I don't know whether they got a bad leg or a bad wing and they can't fly them. Anyway, we don't know why they stay, but they wander around here in the snowstorm. And we've had 4 of them that visit our back door every day to eat the bird food that Barbara ordered from Amazon. And so we have lots of bird food and lots of birds, and they eat out of a tube, and it hangs right outside our dining room window. And we watch all these small birds, and then we get big birds and rabbits and squirrels. They eat the bird food that falls on the ground. And so we have a regular zoo, open air zoo on our patio at the back of our 16 square foot twin home.
16.
Now, I remember you
1,600
used,
square feet.
I remember you used to have a bird feeder that didn't work, and none of the birds came. What changed?
We couldn't figure out why the birds would not come to that bird feeder, but they were afraid of something, so we moved it. And Dan and his sister Ginger drilled some new holes in the post and moved it away from the roof, and they come now. Now the big birds come and eat there with gusto and spill it all on the ground for the other animals. So we have a regular zoo up behind our house.
Wow. So moving it away from the roof was the key.
Yeah.
Still the same bird feeder. You didn't get a new bird feeder.
We have 2 of them now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We have 2. One is more in the shape of a bird house, and the bigger birds are more comfortable there. And the squirrel has figured out how to get up there, and he's very agile and fun to
Yes.
watch.
Yeah.
But, so
Uh-huh.
So we enjoy that, among other things. We have a lot of entertainment here. Thursday, we had Kevin Cook. He's a naturalist, and he gives a series of lectures, one each month here in our big auditorium. We call it Spiritual Aims Center. And we have church there. We don't go to church there, but some people do. And Barbara sometimes plays the piano and the organ. And we have socials, and sometimes we have dinner and a movie, where they show a movie, old time movie, and we eat a nice dinner with it. And so there's all kinds of activities here to keep us get out of our house and get outside. We have a beautiful 60-degree day here. I think the weather here in Loveland, Colorado is the best in the whole country. Mild winters, cool summers, because we're at 5,000 feet.
Yes, right.
Very
So when we finished up 2 years ago, we were in the middle of the pandemic. And so you probably, speaking of getting out, you probably didn't get out very much during the pandemic. Have you been away, traveled any in the last couple of years?
No, Barbara went to her family reunion in New York, and I stayed here. I think my traveling days are over. We've traveled all over the world. We spent 2 winters in Mexico. We spent in Green Valley, Arizona. We went for 2 summers there, winters there. And then we found out the winters aren't that bad here, and we just stay here now. But we love to travel. But now I think that for me, it's time to not to travel anymore.
Well,
But
last
plenty to do
summer,
here.
I was there in Colorado, and we went down to in southern Colorado near Alamosa.
Yes, we every time when Kevin comes from Japan, we get him to drive us, and we've been all over Wyoming. And we took a long trip this winter. That's the longest trip I've taken this year, was with Kevin and Dan. My son Dan and Kevin both went along, and they did the driving, and all we had to do was enjoy Barbara and I looking out the window, and we saw the sand dunes and Alamosa, and we visited a friend who recently lost his wife, and he's moved to the other side of the mountains from the sand dunes into a place that's really away from everything. And he has like 30 acres, and he's going to build a house there and live all by himself. So we visited him. I don't think I would be interested in that, but he's a painter, and he's going to sit there and paint, I guess, his last years. And people have different ideas of what's the best thing to do in retirement. And we have 8 kids between us. Barbara has 4 and I have 4, and they're just starting to retire. Kevin here is retired and just about, and he tells what the things he can do. And I think retirement is wonderful because you can do anything you want. And we did, and we do still. And Dan's coming up, retiring. And then Dan, we have 2 Dans. Barbara's Dan Engelhardt. He's at the other end. He's the youngest. And so we'll have a retirement just about every year for 8 years. And then they'll join us in retirement. But some of them are having a hard time deciding what they want to do, and even if they want to retire. And I highly recommend it to anybody who's about to retire. We've especially, Barbara and I, have had so much fun, and we can do what we want, and we're lucky enough. Barbara worked for an advisor on finances and to seniors when in the last job she had, and she learned a lot from her, from Dot Kada. And I was a teacher of economics. A lot of it was personal economics. So we both were savers, and between us, we had enough money that we could live in this wonderful place.
I could tell about what Dot Kada, the financial planner, said about retirement, and that there are 3 phases. There are the go-go years when you're still young enough to travel and enjoy all kinds of activities, and the slow-go years, and the no-go years. I think we're still in the slow-go years.
I think so.
Maybe approaching the no-go years, but as Tom said earlier, we have so many friends here, and we take care of each other. And you know, there's some sickness and death, but that's part of life. And I agree with Tom that we just I think are in a great place. And Tom chooses to stay home mostly, but you know, you have your friends that you have coffee every week.
Every Thursday at 10 o'clock, 4 of us sit in the dining room and have coffee, and they don't charge us for the coffee. And we can sit there and drink all the coffee we want and talk and tell stories to each other about the good old days. But these are good old days too, just different.
Are these the same people as 2 years ago?
Yes.
On Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them was the pastor who conducted the funeral for my first wife, Marilyn. And so we have known him for a long time. Another one, all 3 of us, David Katka, he is a former last president of our Kiwanis Club. And all 3 of us belong to the Kiwanis. And we were all president at one time or another of the Kiwanis. And they did a lot of volunteer work around Loveland. And one of the things I did was Saint. It was a senior taking little old ladies to the doctor, I called it. They couldn't drive anymore, and they didn't have a husband to drive or didn't know how to drive. And I'd pick them up and take them to places. And then I got to know quite a few people that way. And it was really a rewarding way to volunteer. Well, Kiwanis did all kinds of things like that. And that was a wonderful time. But that was before we came here to Good Samaritan, and quite a while ago. But we were the last presidents because people didn't want to volunteer anymore. The volunteering church membership has fallen. Volunteer organizations have dwindled, and our Kiwanis just dried up for want of members.
So, speaking of church, you now use the video to attend church most weeks, right? You don't usually go anymore?
Well, no, we usually go because Barbara sings in the choir and plays the organ and the piano for the choir. So we need to go in person, and I go with her. But if it's bad snow, we just Zoom it. We go to the Zoom, and it's on YouTube, and our church, First Presbyterian Church of Loveland, and it's downtown Loveland, and it's on Zoom, and we can do it that way.
Okay.
Too.
Great.
We have
Great.
about 12 members of the church who are also here at Good Samaritan. And
Okay.
we get together once a month and have lunch at the dining room. And so that's another good reason for living here, is that we've got that double connection of
And it's
church.
very convenient to go to the right there at
Yeah.
the cafeteria.
Yeah,
And it's what, about a 50-meter walk, right?
right.
Yeah.
We had a theme dinner last night, and it was March Madness. I couldn't figure out what the food was that connected it to March Madness, but the cook said it was something about the different colors, the team colors, and the food was very colorful.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, March Madness is a basketball tournament where
Right.
you have different
That's right.
universities
Yeah.
play against
I
each
thought it
other.
was unique to
But
Illinois, but I guess all over they call it high school basketball. March
Right.
Madness.
yes, right, March Madness. But yeah, you don't go there for the food, right?
No,
No.
not really.
But it's
it's
good
okay,
food. I mean,
right?
it's
Yeah, but
it's not as good as Barbara's home cooked food, but it's adequate. It's much better than high school food. I always compare where we are to high school because I was a high school teacher.
well, that's a pretty low bar, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty low bar. That's right. But a lot of the things that go on here, we get all excited about things and think we run the place. And the students used to do that. And they found out very quickly that the students do not run the school. And we find out, we get pulled up short that this is not ours to do as we wish. But we can make requests, and they're very helpful about changing things to meet our suggestions. But we can't order anything.
Mhm.
The food,
So
that's
speaking
one big thing
of,
that's different. The food here is a lot better than high school food.
but you guys
Yeah.
mostly cook your own food. And I was just before the recording, I was saying that marmalade, I had marmalade for breakfast. That I consider old people's food. So I was thinking, do you guys now eat old people's food, or as your diet changed in the last
I don't
couple of years?
know. We're having the Engleharts over for supper tonight, and we're having taco night. I don't
So you
think
still
that.
entertain quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do, yeah. And one thing that has turned out to be a really good thing is having people over here for lunch. Because the dining room is really crowded and noisy, and it's hard for Tom to hear. So we'll invite some neighbors or friends over for lunch, and soup and sandwiches and stuff like that. Old people food probably.
Easy,
And,
right? Yeah.
And it's a good way to have a nice conversation without all the noise in the background.
Right, we're gonna have 7 at the dinner table tonight, and 2 of them are Barbara's children, and 2 of them will be mine, Ginger and Marie.
No, they're not coming.
No, they're not coming tonight.
We're
We're gonna have another one on
Saturday.
Saturday, and it'll be Ginger at Ginger's house. She's my daughter, and her sister and their family. So there's too many of us to try to have both families with 8 kids and all their kids. So we divided up. So Barbara's going to cook what is it? Tacos tonight, and they're going to come over, and there'll be 7, and they have a exchange student from Germany, Carl, and we've met him, and he's going to be there and see what a family gathering is like and how different it is from Germany. But most of them are going to be Barbara's relatives, and then we're going to have Ginger and her relatives at her house. And so we do that's the best thing we do here, is to have family dinners. And it's too bad that you're living in Tokyo and
it's too far, but at least we're
too
doing
far.
this.
But you get here pretty much every summer. And Barbara has a daughter in New York, Catherine, and she's visited her several times. She lives the furthest away, I guess. Kids,
So Dan,
we have quite a few of them right here in the immediate area.
Dan Ryan, who lives in Denver, comes up regularly, right?
Right, he does. And so we have 3 of my kids and 2 of Barbara's kids that live very close. And we often get together. And that's the best things we do here. And Kevin comes in the summer. So that's nice, and takes us on car rides all over Colorado where we can't go anymore. I can't drive anymore in the mountains and so on. And I can't drive at all. I have macular degeneration, and I had my driver's license pulled, so I can't drive at all. But Barbara's a good driver, but she'd rather drive in the daytime and drive close to home here. And so when you guys come, we can do some wild mountain driving and enjoy.
Right. Yes. So, you were saying macular degeneration and your hearing is, you got a new set of ears, right?
Right. I'm 92 years old, and I have a very expensive hearing aid. It's like a cell phone. It looks like a cell. It is a cell phone, but instead of all the things that are inside a cell phone, it has adjustments to my hearing aids, and wirelessly it sends messages up to my hearing aids, and it can be louder, clearer, softer, whatever I want. And so I have hearing difficulties, and when there's a crowd, it's very confused. The hearing aid instrument is very confused, and it doesn't know what I want to listen to, the guy over on the other side of the room or the person next to me. So I have difficulty hearing in a crowd, but if I only have a table full of people, it's just great. It works fine. But I'm losing my hearing gradually, and I suppose there'll be a time when I won't be able to hear. But I'm 92, and I'm lucky to have these electronic devices that weren't available to my father when he was 93. He died. He couldn't hear and he couldn't see, but his hearing aids were very primitive by today's standards. And so his seeing, there's no cure for macular degeneration, and glasses don't help. There's nothing even to help. So,
but you're still able to use a computer occasionally if the text is very large.
Yes, I enlarge the text to huge when I send out. It's not because the viewer needs it huge. I need it huge so I can check my spelling and see if I wrote what I intended to write. I can edit my emails. I write it in huge print, but I can use a computer, and I can see the Google Photos yet. And so I spent a lot of time looking at the thousands of Google Photos depicting all the places we've been, from Japan to Hong Kong, and we've gone all around Danube River cruises, and so I can review those by looking at the Google Photos, and I can still see them pretty well.
So you're an armchair traveler.
Armchair traveler, right? And we have TV and we have a great big screen. My father had a little tiny screen when he was 93. He said he couldn't see the Cubs games anymore. And his nose got closer and closer to the screen until he couldn't see the Cubs game. And he said, I don't think there's any point in living. I can't watch the Cubs anymore. So I'm lucky. I can see TV with our big screen and with the helps that I have, and I can hear it very well.
They hear, yeah,
That's
it goes right into your ears, the
Right.
sound from the
Wirelessly.
TV. Yeah. Yeah.
right from a special adjustment on the TV that's connected to my hearing aids.
So you watch movies or news or
Yeah.
a little bit of everything?
How long have we been going? I think,
About a half hour.
yeah, I doubt that anybody that was started with us are still on, but I enjoy doing this, Kevin, and I appreciate you setting it up. And
Yes.
Barbara plugging it in correctly so that we can be heard and seen all over, and for even after my death, that'll be a body of knowledge. So thank you for doing this.
Yes.
And we'll meet again sometime soon.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, sure. We could do another episode. You had some questions that you wanted me to ask about some things, so we could have a different episode. But yeah, okay. So we'll finish up recording here.